The convoy had transmitted 43 distress calls. Every empire heard them. Every admiral watched. Every politician chose silence. 6 hours later, the stars themselves would tremble, not because a war had begun, but because humanity had finally decided it had seen enough. In the year 2948, the Aegis convoy drifted through the narrow Helios corridor, a neutral trade route surrounded by cold, silent nebulas and broken asteroid fields. More than 200 civilian ships traveled together in perfect formation. Their cargo wasn't weapons or rare minerals. They carried refugees rescued from devastated colonies, medical teams, engineers, children who had never seen a peaceful sky, and enough food to save 3 starving worlds. Leading the escort was Captain Elias Ward aboard the modest human frigate Resolute. Compared to the colossal battleships of the surrounding empires, his vessel looked insignificant. Ward wasn't worried about enemy fire. He was worried about silence. His sensors repeatedly detected unknown signals echoing from the surrounding asteroids. Every instinct told him someone was watching. Increase long-range scans, he ordered calmly. Before his crew could respond, every display on the bridge flickered. Then the stars disappeared. Gigantic shadows emerged from hyperspace like monsters awakening from the void. 1, 5, 12, then dozens of black warships surrounded the convoy from every direction. Their crimson weapon arrays glowed like burning eyes. The bridge fell silent. The emblem appearing across every screen froze the blood of even the most experienced officers. The Karth Dominion. Without warning, the enemy flagship transmitted a single message across every civilian frequency. Human convoy, your existence ends here. The first plasma barrage tore through the lead transport. A ship carrying nearly 4,000 refugees exploded into a brilliant sphere of white fire. Children screamed over open communication channels. Medical crews begged for mercy. Escape pods scattered like sparks through the darkness while burning debris drifted across the convoy. Captain Ward immediately activated the emergency distress beacon. The signal raced across the galaxy. To the Galactic Council. To neighboring empires. To every military fleet within hundreds of light years. One by one, confirmations appeared. Message received. Message acknowledged. Observation fleet standing by. But no rescue fleet arrived. Instead, distant alien warships simply watched from beyond sensor range, refusing to intervene. The Karth commander laughed over the open channel. Look carefully, humans. This is what your allies truly think of you. Ward stared at the burning convoy, his jaw tightening as another transport disappeared in a violent explosion. He closed his eyes for only a second before entering a command code known only to a handful of people in the entire human civilization. The bridge AI paused. Then it spoke in a voice no one aboard had ever heard before. Omega Protocol confirmed. Authorization accepted. Somewhere beyond the edge of known space. Something ancient opened its eyes. The first distress call had been ignored. The second was acknowledged. By the 43rd, the galaxy had already made its choice. No one would help humanity. They had no idea what that decision had just awakened. Inside the burning remains of the convoy, Captain Elias Ward stood motionless as red warning lights flashed across the bridge of the Resolute. Explosions echoed through the hull while frightened voices flooded every communication channel. Transport 17 has lost engines. We have wounded everywhere. Escape pods are under fire. Another violent impact shook the frigate, throwing several officers to the deck. The ship's shields dropped below 30%. Outside, the Helios corridor had become a graveyard of drifting metal and burning civilian vessels. Hundreds of escape pods floated helplessly through the darkness while Karth fighters hunted them without mercy. Ward's fists tightened. This isn't a battle, he whispered. It's an execution. The enemy commander appeared once more on every screen, smiling as another transport vanished in a blinding explosion. Watch closely, Captain. Today the galaxy learns that human lives are worth less than silence. Far beyond the battlefield, dozens of Imperial fleets watched through long-range sensors. Some commanders wanted to intervene. Others demanded permission to fire. But politicians, fearful of provoking a larger war, issued the same cold command. Observe. Do not engage, ***. Across the Galactic Council chamber, delegates argued over legal treaties while billions watched the massacre unfold live. No one noticed that the human ambassador had quietly left the chamber without saying a single word. Back aboard the Resolute, Ward looked at the frightened faces around him. There would be no rescue. No reinforcements. Only the people beside him. He opened a secured channel that had never been used before. Omega Protocol is active, he said calmly. Record everything. Every ship destroyed. Every child lost. Every empire that watched. His executive officer stared at him in confusion. Sir, who receives that transmission? Ward looked out at the burning convoy. The ones we promised never to wake. Thousands of light years away, hidden inside a rogue planet wrapped in artificial storms, enormous vault doors began to move for the first time in nearly 3 centuries. Dust fell from kilometer-high walls. Ancient reactors rumbled to life. Dark shipyards illuminated one section after another, revealing endless rows of silent warships unlike anything recorded in galactic history. Their hulls bore no fleet insignias, only a single silver emblem, a human hand protecting a star. Artificial intelligences that had slept for generations activated simultaneously. One by one, colossal engines ignited. Then a calm mechanical voice echoed through every chamber. Civilian Protection Covenant violated. Omega Fleet released from eternal standby. Estimated arrival at the Helios Corridor. The countdown appeared across thousands of ancient displays. 5 hours. 5 hours. That was all the galaxy believed it had before the last surviving human convoy ship disappeared forever. What no one realized was that those same 5 hours would become the most expensive mistake every empire had ever made. The Helios Corridor was no longer a trade route. It was a sea of drifting wreckage. Broken transports spun silently through space, their shattered hulls reflecting the crimson glow of distant explosions. Escape pods floated among twisted metal while emergency beacons blinked like dying stars. Captain Elias Ward stood on the scorched bridge of the Resolute. Smoke filled the air. Half the control panels were dead, and only a handful of exhausted crew members remained at their stations. A young communications officer suddenly looked up. Captain, we've stopped receiving distress calls. Ward's heart sank. Because they're gone. The officer swallowed hard. No, sir. They've stopped screaming. For a moment, complete silence filled the bridge. Even the Karth warships had paused their attack, satisfied that victory was already theirs. Aboard the massive Karth flagship, Supreme Commander Vorik admired the destruction through a panoramic viewport. Broadcast the battlefield, he ordered. I want every empire to witness what happens to those too weak to defend themselves. Within minutes, billions across the galaxy watched the burning convoy in horrified silence. Some civilians wept. Others demanded their governments intervene. But inside the grand halls of the Galactic Council, fear outweighed courage. The Dominion cannot be challenged. This isn't our war. We must avoid escalation. One excuse after another echoed through the chamber. Meanwhile, humanity remained eerily quiet. No speeches. No threats. No demands for revenge. Only silence. That silence unsettled more than one intelligence agency. Reports began flooding military headquarters across known space. Human border patrols have disappeared. Defense satellites are going offline voluntarily. Military shipyards have gone dark. It's as if they're erasing themselves. No one understood. Until a junior analyst aboard an observation station noticed something impossible. Hidden deep inside ordinary civilian traffic were billions of encrypted data bursts, moving faster than any known communications network. The signals weren't asking for help. They were giving orders. Thousands of light years away, abandoned mining moons split open. Asteroids thought to be lifeless unfolded into enormous shipyards. Frozen worlds ignited with blue light as colossal docks emerged from beneath centuries of ice. Entire fleets that officially did not exist began leaving places no alien had ever discovered. Then every long-range sensor in the galaxy detected the same impossible event. Not one hyperspace rupture. Not 10. Not 100. Millions. The stars themselves appeared to crack as countless blue gateways opened across the darkness, stretching farther than any scanner could measure. Supreme Commander Vorik's confident smile slowly disappeared. His tactical officer's voice trembled. Commander. I don't think those are rescue ships. The main display zoomed in on the nearest hyperspace breach. Something unimaginably massive was beginning to emerge. And it blocked out the stars. The object emerging from hyperspace wasn't a ship. At least, not by any definition the galaxy had ever known. It eclipsed entire fleets. For one terrifying moment, every sensor overloaded, every scanner failed, and every observer believed a moon had somehow entered the battlefield. Then it moved. A wave of silence spread across every command bridge watching the Helios corridor. The colossal vessel slid out of the blue hyperspace rift with impossible grace. Its dark titanium hull stretched for hundreds of kilometers, covered in layered armor, glowing blue reactor lines, thousands of illuminated windows, and weapon batteries so enormous they looked like mountain ranges carved into metal. It was followed by another. Then another. Then hundreds more. Some resembled enormous spearheads. Others looked like floating fortresses. Several carried rotating ring structures larger than entire space stations. No two ships shared the same design, yet every one radiated the same terrifying purpose. A frightened Karth officer whispered, "We've never recorded these classes before." His superior didn't answer. He couldn't. Across the galaxy, military databases searched desperately for matching blueprints. Nothing. No records. No sightings. No rumors. It was as if humanity had hidden an entire civilization's worth of warships in plain sight for centuries. Back aboard the battered Resolute, Captain Elias Ward finally allowed himself a slow breath. "They came," he murmured. His crew stared at him. "You knew?" one officer asked. Ward's eyes remained fixed on the growing armada. "I prayed I'd never have to find out if they were real." At the center of the formation, one vessel dwarfed everything around it. Its broad armored bow carried no symbols of conquest. Instead, engraved in brilliant silver across the hull were three simple words. "We stand first." The giant flagship transmitted a single encrypted pulse. Every human ship, colony, satellite, and hidden outpost acknowledged it instantly. Then a calm female voice echoed across every open frequency in the galaxy. "I am Admiral Amelia Reyes, commander of the Omega Fleet." Her tone carried no anger. Only certainty. 5 hours ago, an unarmed humanitarian convoy requested aid. You all received the signal. You all chose silence. Across dozens of imperial capitals, leaders exchanged nervous glances. Reyes continued. "Humanity does not begin wars. But humanity remembers those who abandon the innocent." The Karth Dominion answered with laughter. Supreme Commander Vorik slammed his fist onto the command console. "Fire everything." Thousands of plasma cannons, missile batteries, railguns, and antimatter lances erupted toward the Omega Fleet, turning space into a storm of blazing light. Every observer expected the impossible armada to vanish beneath the assault. Instead, not a single human ship moved. As the tidal wave of fire closed in, the flagship's blue reactor lines suddenly blazed brighter than newborn stars. Then, with one quiet command from Admiral Reyes. "Activate Guardian Shield." The entire battlefield disappeared inside a wall of radiant blue light, and every enemy weapon simply ceased to exist before reaching the fleet. The galaxy had just witnessed a technology that should have been impossible. The galaxy had just watched 10,000 enemy weapons vanish into blue light. No explosions. No impact. No wreckage. It was as if the attack had never existed. For the first time in centuries. The Karth Dominion knew what fear felt like. An eerie silence settled over the Helios corridor. Even the burning wreckage seemed frozen as every fleet, every news network, and every Galactic Council observer replayed the impossible moment again and again. Where did the weapons go? No one had an answer. Inside the bridge of the Omega Fleet flagship, Admiral Amelia Reyes stood before a massive holographic map of the battlefield. Hundreds of red enemy markers surrounded the surviving human convoy, while thousands of blue civilian escape pods drifted helplessly between them. A young tactical officer looked toward the admiral. "Permission to return fire?" Reyes didn't answer immediately. Instead, she studied the escape pods. How many civilians are still alive? Approximately 63,000, Admiral. And enemy ships? 412 confirmed. She folded her hands behind her back. Our priority remains the same. Save every civilian. The officer blinked. Even if the enemy escapes. Reyes nodded. A civilization proves its greatness by who it protects, not by how many enemies it destroys. The order spread through the Omega fleet. Within seconds, thousands of human ships accelerated with breathtaking precision. But they didn't charge toward the enemy. They flew straight into the burning debris field. Gigantic carrier vessels unfolded shimmering rescue bays. Swarms of autonomous drones raced through clouds of wreckage, cutting open crushed escape pods, extinguishing fires, and pulling terrified families from collapsing transports. Medical frigates projected enormous blue containment fields around damaged civilian ships, stabilizing them before they broke apart. Across the galaxy, billions watched in stunned silence. Humanity had arrived with the largest military force ever seen. Yet its first battle was against time, not its enemies. Supreme Commander Vorik sneered. They're distracted. Destroy the rescue ships. Hundreds of Karth warships surged forward, unleashing another devastating barrage. This time, the Omega fleet moved. Without firing a single lethal shot, sleek interceptor cruisers appeared between the attackers and the civilians with impossible speed. Brilliant columns of blue energy swept across space. Enemy engines shut down. Weapon systems powered off. Missiles drifted harmlessly into the void. Entire Karth battle groups fell silent, their ships left floating helplessly without a single crew member harmed. Panic spread through the Dominion fleet. They're disabling us. They're choosing not to kill us. Vorik's confidence shattered. What kind of enemy fights like this? Before anyone could answer, alarms erupted across every bridge, human and alien alike. Long-range sensors detected another fleet emerging from deep hyperspace. It wasn't human. It wasn't Karth. And its energy signature matched no civilization recorded in galactic history. A single transmission echoed across every frequency. Omega fleet identified. Ancient protocol acknowledged. The judges have returned. The judges have returned. The message echoed across every frequency. Then, silence. Not the silence of empty space. The silence of billions holding their breath. Far beyond the battlefield, the fabric of space rippled like water disturbed by an unseen hand. One by one, enormous rings of white light opened across the stars. They were unlike hyperspace gates. Unlike wormholes. Unlike anything recorded in the archives of the Galactic Council. From those luminous gateways emerged 12 identical vessels. They were ancient. Elegant. Terrifying. Their silver hulls reflected entire nebulae, and strange geometric symbols pulsed across their surface as though the ships themselves were alive. Every artificial intelligence in the surrounding fleet suddenly went offline. Every weapon system locked itself. Every navigation computer displayed the same warning. Unknown authority detected. Even Admiral Amelia Reyes narrowed her eyes. So. They still exist. A stunned officer turned toward her. You know who they are. Reyes answered quietly. We hoped we'd never see them again. Across the battlefield, Supreme Commander Vorik smiled for the first time in hours. He assumed the mysterious fleet had come to stop humanity. The universe still has laws, he laughed. Perhaps someone stronger has finally arrived to put humans in their place. The lead silver vessel slowly moved between the Omega fleet and the Karth Armada. For several tense seconds, no one spoke. Then a calm mechanical voice echoed through every ship in every language simultaneously. Historical records verified. Protected humanitarian convoy attacked. 43 distress calls ignored. Galactic observers confirmed inactive. Gigantic streams of light spread across space, replaying every second of the massacre as glowing holograms visible to every civilization. No lie. No propaganda. Only undeniable truth. Delegates inside the Galactic Council watched in horror as their own fleets appeared in the recordings, close enough to help, yet ordered to stand down. Several representatives lowered their heads in shame. Others simply walked out without speaking. The mechanical voice continued. Judgment is not directed at one empire. Judgment is directed at all who witnessed evil, and chose comfort over courage. The word struck harder than any weapon. Even the Karth officers looked uneasy. Then something even more astonishing happened. The lead judge vessel slowly rotated toward Admiral Reyes. A beam of brilliant white light scanned the flagship from bow to stern. The entire galaxy expected humanity to be condemned. Instead, the ancient voice declared. Species, human. Primary response after civilian loss. There was a long pause. Then came the verdict that shook the stars. Protection before vengeance. Compassion before conquest. Judgment complete. Every silver vessel turned away from the Omega fleet. And aimed every weapon they possessed at the Karth Dominion's flagship. But before they could fire, a massive distortion erupted behind the judge fleet. Something colossal was forcing its way into reality. Something that even the judges had feared for millions of years. The judges had survived for millions of years. They had witnessed the rise and extinction of countless civilizations. They had never retreated from a single enemy. Until now. Every silver vessel abruptly broke formation. Across the battlefield, alarms erupted with a sound no computer had ever produced before, a deep, metallic pulse that vibrated through the hulls of every ship. The stars themselves began to bend. A vast crack spread across the darkness, stretching from one side of the Helios corridor to the other. It wasn't an explosion. It was reality tearing apart. From within the fracture came a sound unlike engines or weapons, a low, haunting resonance that seemed to echo directly inside every living mind. Even Admiral Amelia Reyes felt it. Her veteran composure faltered for the first time. She whispered only two words. The abyss. On the bridge of the Karth flagship, Supreme Commander Vorik stared in confusion. What is that? No one answered. His tactical displays had gone completely black. Distance, mass, energy. Every known law of physics had become meaningless. Then something emerged. Not all at once. First came a single glowing crimson eye, larger than a battle station. Then came another. Then dozens more, opening one after another inside the darkness beyond the fracture. The colossal silhouette behind them was impossible to measure. It stretched so far into the void that even long-range sensors reached their limits without finding its end. Across every fleet, seasoned admirals forgot their training. Some whispered prayers. Others simply stared. The mechanical voice of the lead judge ship returned, but it no longer sounded calm. It sounded, afraid. Void sovereign detected. Ancient containment failure confirmed. Probability of galactic extinction, 99.8%. Panic erupted throughout the Galactic Council. Emergency evacuation orders spread across hundreds of worlds. Empires that had spent centuries preparing for war suddenly realized none of their weapons mattered. The Karth Dominion abandoned its attack and attempted to flee. Their ships never entered hyperspace. The Void Sovereign hadn't fired. It merely looked at them. Entire cruisers folded inward like paper, silently crushed into spheres of molten metal before vanishing completely. No explosions. No debris. Just, erased. Captain Elias Ward watched the horrifying spectacle from the damaged Resolute. This is why Omega existed. Admiral Reyes slowly stood from her command chair. Her expression hardened. She had hoped humanity's greatest secret would die with her generation. Now there was no choice. She placed her hand upon a small crystal console that had remained locked throughout the battle. Every screen aboard every human vessel instantly changed. One message appeared in brilliant white letters. Project Titan authorization granted. Far beyond the edge of the Milky Way, in the darkness between galaxies. An object the size of a small moon opened a single blue eye. Then another. And an ancient voice, older than the judges themselves, spoke for the first time in 10,000 years. Humanity has called. Humanity has called. The voice rolled through space like distant thunder. It carried no anger. No hatred. Only an ancient promise waiting 10,000 years to be fulfilled. Beyond the edge of the Milky Way, the darkness split apart. A colossal silhouette emerged, not a warship, not a planet, but something in between. It was Project Titan, the last creation of humanity's forgotten golden age. Entire mountain ranges formed its armored hull. Oceans shimmered beneath transparent energy shields, while blue reactor veins pulsed across its surface like the heartbeat of a living world. Every empire stared in disbelief. The judges lowered their weapons. For the first time in millions of years, they saluted. Admiral Amelia Reyes took a slow breath. "Welcome home." Project Titan answered with a single beam of radiant light that stretched across the battlefield. It wasn't a weapon, it was a stabilizing field. The collapsing rift sealed itself, the fractured stars stopped trembling, and the Void Sovereign was pulled fully into normal space for the first time. Now it could be fought. The monster unleashed a wave of darkness that consumed entire asteroid belts, but Titan stood unmoved. Human dreadnoughts formed a protective wall around the surviving civilians while the judges and dozens of former rival empires joined the line without hesitation. The galaxy that had once watched in silence now fought together. Captain Elias Ward led the rescue of the final escape pods, refusing to leave until every survivor had been recovered. Around him, Karth officers helped carry wounded human children aboard medical ships, ashamed of what they had become. The final battle lasted only minutes. But history would remember it forever. Project Titan concentrated the energy of thousands of human ships, 12 judge vessels, and hundreds of allied fleets into a single brilliant lance of blue-white light. It struck the Void Sovereign at its core. For a heartbeat, the universe stood still. Then the ancient creature shattered into billions of glowing fragments that dissolved like stardust, leaving only silence and a sky filled with newborn light. Weeks later, the Galactic Council gathered once again. No speeches defended their inaction. No excuses remained. Every empire unanimously signed the Convoy Accord, declaring that any attack on a humanitarian mission, or any civilization that ignored such an attack, would be answered by the United Galaxy. As memorials were built for those who had died in the Helios Corridor, Admiral Reyes looked at the restored convoy route and quietly said, "We did not save the galaxy with our strongest weapons. We saved it by refusing to become like those who attacked the innocent." From that day forward, no distress call was ever ignored again. Moral asterisk: the greatest civilizations are not remembered for how fiercely they wage war, but for how courageously they defend those who cannot defend themselves. In the darkest moments, silence helps evil, but one act of compassion can unite an entire galaxy.